Spa takes us once again to the GT Cup Europe second round, and what a wonderful place to be for such what could be a spectacular race, certainly given the nature of this wonderful layout that we have witnessed since 2007 in its current guise. 7.004 kilometers, 4.352 miles, 19 turns in total. The weather somewhat behaving itself. There were discussions, murmurings of potential rain threats coming in, but so far they have been abated. But that could all change in the next 50 minutes of racing that we will be bringing you for sure, with Paul Meyer nestling in yet another stellar pole position, and we'll start on pole position for the second time this season as well, alongside Jurian Back, who'll be taking the driver change when that opens up later on, 21 minutes into the race. They're going to come under fierce contest though from Pietro Deli Guanti and Matteo Levisi, who are looking to come back in a pursuit for the championship title. George Morgan here, your commentator here at Spa. Joining me once again, it's Chris Stevens.
Yes, and it's another Hans Weiss Motorsport versus Fimes team by Ebby Motors battle at the head of the field. That's the front row of the grid. And following on from Portimao, I'm going to see if anybody can really take the fight to the championship leaders, as they were victorious in race 2, and you would imagine they would have been victorious in race 1 had Paul Meyer not been spun round at the start of the race. Still managed to come away with a podium finish. We've still got battles to be had further down the field. Borja Garcia leading the Pro-Am battle with Simone Iaquinta between himself and his nearest class rival. Simone stepping in to the ZRS car for Nicolo Schiro this weekend. And ZRS Motorsport will just be hoping to have a clean race after being eliminated early from both of the races last time in Portimao.
Yeah, no doubt they're going to look to bounce back in serious fashion. But obviously we've got a fantastic group of cars here to bring you. Of course, the group at Hans Weiss, very, very strong. Obviously they've got entries across all 3 classes. We look at Jurian Back and Paul Meyer leading that silver class, and of course Lars Zanen, Bogani Salubra as well, also part of the Pro-Am contingent. And then Am, you have Hans Weiss himself, obviously alongside Rick van Verden, who will be lining up alongside him too. But a marvellous sight to see these cars back with us, and great to see Evgeny Leonov back in the championship as well. It's going to be a serious threat from Am class this time. And there's going to be others as well looking to take full advantage. But Paul Meyer, who's got a busy schedule over the next couple of days, of course, combining this with the 24 hours of Nürburgring as well at the same time. So it's a fierce weekend for Paul Meyer here to try and balance his schedule out.
Yes, we understand he's doing this race, then heading over to Nürburgring, where he'll do the bulk of his driving from sort of 7 p.m. till, I don't know, maybe 5 a.m. Ish, getting 3 stints in during that time, at which point he will drive back to Spa for the second race of the weekend, and having had no sleep either, probably, and then having to jump into the race car, and of course he'll be jumping in the middle of the race tomorrow as well, so he's kind of got to just be on it straight away. It's an incredible undertaking that Paul Meyer is given himself for this weekend. Yeah,
exceptional. Of course, this is the 8th outing that the GT Cup Europe has had at Spa since the inception in 2019. Only 1 year did we break the usual standard procedure. That was back in 2023 when, of course, it was aligned with the International GT Open as part of the same race. That was, of course, incidentally won by Leonov back then. He was combined with Adam Christodoulou as far as the GT Cup contingent were concerned. It was Jorge Cabezas, though, and Ivan Velasco of Mertel who went on to take pole position for that. And of course, Velasco, one of the few drivers to then return and go back-to-back the following season. In fact, I think he's the only driver to go back-to-back. So, I mean, Lars Zanen could do something similar to that, though, because, of course, he comes in as our reigning race winner alongside Goncalo Fernandez from race 1 last year.
Yeah, it's a slightly different setup then, wasn't it, with Q1 Track Racing and the Hans Weiss crew only with a single car in the Pro-Am division as well. So we'll see what they do with the cars represented in all 3 classes. with pressure from the Fimes team, our inaugural race winners. Deliguanti in the car he shares with Matteo Lavisi, who's back for a full championship campaign after a tumultuous season off track through no fault of Lavisi. So we can take a look at the Paul Meyer car. Oh, how very kind of it, opening the door for the cameraman there. And the 8th pole position there for Paul Meyer.
He's still counting.
We've been keeping count as well. And fair play, 100% record for Paul Meyer in terms of pole positions in his GT Cup Europe career.
Yeah, marvellous stat that is as well. I mean, you've got to give credit to Pietro Deliguanti. He was not letting him go. He continued to try and pepper in some improved lap times. Boya Garcia will be on the second row of the grid, coming back in Pro-Am class. Has actually got a fair gulf in between he and Lars Zanen, because Simona Quinta, who we're currently seeing on screen, is going to be starting from 4th on the grid for ZRS Motorsport. Hans Weiss will be on the third row as well. Of course, part of the AM class contingent, and definitely seems to be a strong contender in this AM field. And I'll tell you what, Hans Weiss have got an incredible platform that they can build on here this campaign, especially with their presence across all 3 classes. Lars Zanen, incidentally, just in behind. I mentioned, of course, his result from last year, has got form here at Spa. Diego Stifter, who was showing a lot of early pace for the bi-race team that have arrived in this season. So great to see them coming in and making an impression. Has got Ludovico Laurini in his back pocket as well to help him along. H. de Mello, of course, forming up in P8, and then Nelson Montero Jr. Jose Barros, of course, from Silver, has got to try and move up from P10 as effectively as he can. Then Pedreira, Sampao, Leonov and Pedrini and Martins round off the rest of the field. It's going to be an incredible race where conditions, ultimately, as there often is, massive question mark. So let's take you back 3 weeks ago at Portimao, an action-packed first race of the GT Cup Europe season, and it was a furious start as well for the Hans Weiss team. Unfortunately for Paul Meyer, who started so promisingly in qualifying, unfortunately getting upended, putting his race in all doubt. Matteo Lavisi and Deliguanti were also on the move, chasing for bigger, bolder positions, and indeed they certainly would, though going wide a little bit in that moment. It was a victory nonetheless when the checkered flag came out for the Fimes team. Second race got underway, and obviously it was a redemption run here for Jurian de Back and Paul Meyer after their spin on the opening lap. A lot of congestion going through the first corner in the early goings, and a massive incident as well that actually saw the end of Fimes team's race. Unfortunately, it was their turn to receive a nasty moment, but of course that would send them out of the race. They went down through towards Tora Vip. It was nose to tail for quite a strong majority with the rest of the field. Obviously, it did not stop Paul Meyer and Jurian de Back, who took it all the way to the checkered flag and celebrated their first win of the season. So this is how the championship now looks in terms of the drivers. Jurian de Back and Paul Meyer, 25 points and 8 points clear of Jose Barros, who is down in second on 17. 2 points back then, Pietro Deliguanti and Matteo Lavisi, with Ludovico Laurini, Diego Stifter further back in 4th place. Well, now that we know the championship, now we know the grid. Well, in fact, we'll tell you the grid now in greater detail. Why not? We're here at SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS, race 1 about to get underway, and it's Paul Meyer back on pole for an 8th time alongside Pietro Deliguanti in 2nd place. Boya Garcia in 3rd on the 2nd row, joined by Simona Quinta in 4th. Then we move down to the 3rd row of the grid, P5. The AM driver Hans Weiss alongside Lars Zanen, looking to go back-to-back with wins to join Ivan Velasco's record here this season this time. 7th for Diego Stifter, the Italian, lines up alongside H. de Mello, who comes in for GDL Racing. And we move down then to the 5th row of the grid, Nelson Montero Jr., also hailing from Brazil, alongside Jose Barros from Portugal in 10th of AF Motorsport. We head down then to the 6th row of the grid. Fernando Pedreira lines up alongside Flavio Sampao, and he'll be starting from 12th. Then we move down to P13, where Evgeny Leonov marks his return to the GT Cup Europe Championship, and he will be lined up alongside Giacomo Pedrini, the Italian, starting from the 14th spot on the grid. Last but certainly not least, LMR Motorsport mark their return with Leandro Martins. Of course, Dieter Schweppes will be alongside him, 15th on the grid. So that is your grid for this race. First race in the GT Cup Europe this weekend here at Spa. And it always offers plenty of action. It doesn't get much better than a trip around the Ardennes, Chris.
Yeah, I'm very jealous of these guys who get to race a bunch of Porsche Cup cars around the Ardennes. We saw in qualifying just how lively they can get through the likes of Eau Rouge as well. So I think trying to get 15 of them through Eau Rouge and Raidillon on the first lap is going to be quite the ask. But don't forget that it's not just a straight fight out there. Of course, the pole-sitting car is going to be taking a 10-second handicap when it comes into the pits. And both of the Fimes cars are unhandicapped. So that's going to be significant, as is the ZRS car, of course, as well, because it hasn't finished either race so far this season. So it's not going to go all Paul Meyer and Jurien de Back's way, I don't think. So we'll keep an eye out on that when the driver change window opens in about 21 minutes time, because there is also a 10-second handicap for the 6 car, the Pro-Am car from HWN. So Lars Zanen starting second in that category will have to take 10 seconds. Same for the AM pairing from Tsunami RT of Navarrete and Pedrera in the number 19 car, which is starting in 11th position. And then also 5 seconds for the LMR Motorsports cars, the number 11 and the 911, which has taken a 6th-place grid penalty for doing some private testing here, as has Evgeny Leonov. That's why he's down in 13th position, having qualified a little bit higher up than that.
Work for them to do to obviously negate that situation, but anything's possible in the GT Cup Europe Championship. We've seen that from time to time. Even the likes of Paul Meyer can fall foul to incidents like we saw at Portimao in the opening race of the season. Definitely not the way he would have envisioned his campaign to start. We've had many great races, though. If you go back to 2019, Nicolas van Dierendonck lit up the timing screens in qualifying one back then, went on to win 2 races as well for EMG Motorsport, and Aldo Frastante also doing exactly the same thing the following year in 2020. And Jan Larison was going back-to-back years. In fact, he can join the Ivan Velasco club because he, of course, won race 2 back in 2021 and then won race 1 in he won 2021 race 2, and then it was 2022 race 1 for Jan Larison of Q1 Track Racing. And of course, we mentioned Velasco, who went and put it on pole twice over. Of course, Leonov, the winner of that GT Open combined event back in 2023, and of course, marks his return here this weekend. But now, as the safety car peels off, you'll leave it to the competing cars to decide when to go. Well, of course, they've got to go when the lights go green, as they now curtail through the bus stop chicane. In the green, it is Pietro Dell'Iguante, Paul Meyer in the bronze with the white and the black on the front end. That mean-looking Porsche, as we now see the lights go from red to green. It's pedal to the metal. It's go! Go, 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 go! Here at Spa in race 1 in GT Cup Europe again. Taking a tight line, though, Paul Meyer up the inside, looking to try and fend off the approach and puts a stopper in Pietro Dell'Iguante. A couple of cars, though, now in the gravel. And in fact, it's the Hans Weiss car that goes off into the gravel in itself now as they look to take the Eau Rouge and Raidillon section. Now this time it's Paul Meyer who leads the way. Further back, Pietro Dell'Iguante, Boyle Garcia also with them as well. They're unchanged from their qualifying positions inside the top 3. The LMR crew, I think, getting a very good start. Leandro Martins, I think, managing to shuffle up at least 1 place as now we take a look at them making the run up through towards Lake Com. Boyle Garcia coming under pressure now. Quinta looking all over the back of him now. Nose to tail between them, though. No change so far. Side by side further back, however, as they storm through the first sector, Chris.
Oh, but there might be an opportunity here in Malmedy for Quinta to get up the inside and take 3rd position from Borja Garcia. That was an opportunistic move. It hasn't quite paid up, and it's actually opened up the door for Hans Weiss, the rally driver, to stick his nose up the inside. But they do stay in the same order. I do wonder if Pietro Dell'Iguante is going to be pulled up by race control for not going through the grid hatchings, which you are supposed to do on the race start. It looked like everyone on his side of the grid behind him was doing so, but certainly the car on the front row of the grid was not doing so. We'll keep an eye out on timing screens and any updates from race control on that one. It's Paul Meyer storming clear from Pietro Dell'Iguante, and Borja Garcia trying to hang on to this 3rd place spot from Simone Quinta and Hans Weiss, and Jose Barros up to 6th position from 10th on the grid. That's a cracking start there from the former Iberian racer. They make their way into Stavolo, and this is the AM car we were talking about earlier, the Fernando Pedrera car, which has got Evgeny Leonov right in front of it. And you can hear the understeer coming through curve Paul Frere, and then finally getting on the power, heading up towards Blanchimont.
Yeah, heading down now into bus stop to bring an end to the opening lap of action. Paul Meyer looking to check out already. Just look at the gap now, outwards to 1.5 seconds plus at the moment, as we now see a Quinter just looking to fend off the approaching Hans Wies, who was just in behind. And despite his AM status, certainly holding no qualms about trying to tackle a silver driver, as they now make their way down through towards turn 1 here at La Source to begin yet another lap. Lap 2 here in this exchange. 47 minutes and 20 or so to go. We run on board here with Jose Barros from AF Motorsport, and a very, very strong start for him as he now looks to try and close up on Hans Wies in front in AM class.
AF Motorsport represented here and in the International GT Open. They'll be doing the 500-kilometre race tomorrow, their debut season here in the GT Sport paddock. As we see Hans Wies getting very close in that white and black machine with the yellow trim on it. It's the yellow trim for the AM car, the blue for the Pro-Am car, and the red for the silver class car. And you see the Lars Zanen car in a bit of a scuffle here with Barros in front of him and Stifter behind him. The 3 different teams being represented there in that battle for 6th position. They make their way through Rivage and then into Speaker's Corner. And Barros was getting the back end out a little bit. Oh, sorry, that was Borja Garcia actually on that particular shot, trying to keep Simone E. Quinter at bay. So it was Garcia who was lighting it up a little bit on the exit of the corner, and that is the car that is second in the Pro-Am Championship going into this race. Winners on debut in race 1 in Portimao for the GT Core scheme. Second place car off the road on the exit of the Fagnes chicane. So Pietro Deli Guanti losing time to Paul Meyer, and that is not going to do him any favours at all as he put his wheels through the gravel trap on the exit of the chicane.
Yeah, clearly I think trying to put his best feet forward and trying to catch Paul Meyer, but you get caught out as well if you go too far. And indeed, Deli Guante guilty of that in that moment. Paul Meyer once again nestling in 2 purple sectors on this particular lap with a 39.4 and also a 66.2. He is vehemently quick at the moment, and just look at the contrast. I mean, between Deli Guanti and Meyer, that first sector, 3/10 approximately of a second difference between them in Meyer's favour, and then in the middle sector, it's over 4/10 of a second difference. We're talking 6/10 in total. In fact, more than that, probably more like 7, as they now make their way across the line to begin yet another lap. It's getting tight between Quinter and Boyar Garcia at the moment. Garcia still leading the Pro-Am class. Quinter, of course, part of that silver contingent, and some of the gravel dust springs up from the surface itself. The driver's obviously trying to make sure they exit out of La Source effectively. We run on board with the FIMES team by Ebi Motors. Pietro Deli Guanti, second place. Just look at Paul Meyer, is just gone, absolutely gone.
It's that little speck up the road, isn't it? It's just getting smaller and smaller. Could be a change here for 3rd position because Quinter's right in the slipstream of Borja Garcia. So the ZRS car breaks very deep around the outside and manages to get that move done into Les Combes. That's a cracking move there from the Italian driver. Up to 3rd position.
Good move from Quinter. Now riding on board here with Pietro Deli Guanti. This might explain actually the time loss. There's the dip into the gravel. So not good at all. Obviously, we did see this earlier on live, just the tail end of it. And that's a really unfortunate moment there for Deli Guanti. And hence where that middle sector time was lost. And this is the move for P3. Boyar Garcia and Quinter coming together. Quinter coming off better in that moment out on track. Brilliant stuff from the pair of them. Deli Guanti still furiously trying to catch Paul Meyer as things stand. But you do wonder now whether this has actually released Simone Quinter to maybe cause a few problems for Deli Guanti if he closes up, because he is showing much faster time in that first sector. In fact, he was 3/10 near enough quicker than Deli Guanti in that first sector alone.
Yeah, and is showing good speed out there despite being in the dirty air of Garcia as well. Let's see what it's done in the middle sector. Oh, actually,
not quite so good.
3/10 slower in the middle sector than Deli Guanti. So that's averaged out, nil points. It's a 2.6-second gap that he's going to try and close here in this battle for second place. But both of those cars are unhandicapped in second and third place. And that's the mission for Meyer. It's to pull 10 seconds on Pietro Deli Guanti before he comes in to the pits. And that will be 21 minutes into the race, but he won't necessarily come in straight away. He'll probably leave it to the last possible minute to come in. And remember, these cars are using these support pits here this weekend because all the garages are full with the GT Open and Euroformula crews for this weekend. And so they're in the support pits. You see in the top left corner of the screen. So that means that they will be exiting La Source and then swinging right into the secondary pit lane entry there.
Yep, so there you have it. Obviously, at the moment, for Hans Wiese, they've got two cars that need to service 10 seconds because, of course, it's the same for Lars Zanen and Pagani Saluba as well. Right on board here with, well, said Lars Zanen, who dipped his toes into the gravel earlier on, looking to make moves on Jose Barros. No, says Barros, and therefore Zanen has to wait as they come through Lecom this time, and he's brought a friend with him as well, Diego Stifter, coming in to join the fun at the same time. Also part of Silver Class, well, I should say, yes, part of Silver Class. So he's looking to try and tangle with Jose Barros, but also needs to get past Lars Zanen, because remember, for the Silver Class drivers, it matters, of course, to them, overtaking the likes of your Pro-Ams and your AM contenders. Got to give great credit for Hans Wiese as well. Remember, of course, in the AM class, and currently ahead of the likes of Barros, Zanen, Stifter, and the rest of the field as well. Also, you can throw Giacomo Pedrini in this as well, because he of course, also racing in silver here in the GT Cup Europe, as they now head down in towards the Lefanier chicane. There's the 77 of Barros once more, just trying to keep Zanen in behind. It could be easier said than done as soon as they open up, coming out of Campus and Stavelot through Corbet Paul Frere. And just in behind, Stifter looking to capitalise on any mistakes that are made in front of him as they now make their way through. Be cautious of the gravel on the left-hand side. A little movement there from Barros as they make their way through Corbet Paul Frere, just dipping their toes onto the curb before then tackling the famed Blanchimont section. Such high speed, and this is where Lars Zanen's going to hope to capitalise. He's going to get a lovely run here with the use of the toe and see whether he can open the door now on the run down through towards the bus stop chicane. The brake lights there glowing on the rear, and again just running slightly wide there. Jose Barros obviously just trying to extend, using all the power at his disposal as they head down into the bus stop chicane to begin yet another lap, but no harm, no foul just yet. Barros will hold on for the time being.
Lars Zanen, a multiple race winner in GT Cup with the Q1 Track Racing team over the last couple of years. The Belgian racer coming out of Belkart competition, using all of that experience to try and usurp Barros in front of him, who's come from the Iberian region in Portugal and Spain. So this is it, feathering the throttle all the way through Eau Rouge. You feel the understeer being picked up as they make their way up a Radion, and so we're in the tow now. We hit top gear, unleashing all 510 brake horsepower from the 4-litre flat 6 engine. Barros defends to the inside and manages to hang on to 6th place for another moment.
Yeah, does so at least for now. He's been fending off the approach from Zanen, who's continuously peppered the back of his car. Now we're going to take a look at this as well. This is from further down. This is Nelson Montero, and combined, I believe, with Leandro Martins on the run up the hill, going up through Rouge and Radion. Martins currently sat in 11th. Lovely little display. Lovely to see them going wheel to wheel up through that section of track. It's always a majestic thing to see.
I was watching the World Endurance Championship race here last weekend, and there was some great AM battling there, and side by side through Eau Rouge, and then the leader immediately threw it in the gravel a few corners later. So hopefully that doesn't happen to Leandro Martins. They're the reigning double AM champion alongside Dieter Schweppes. And it was an engine failure in Portimao that stopped them taking any points in the first race in Portimao. It did manage to recover to claim a 2nd place finish in the 2nd race of the weekend, but coming here with a grid penalty as well. Not that it made much difference, because Leandro Martins qualified last anyway, and after actually check it, they're going to carry that over to tomorrow. I wouldn't have thought so, but my knowledge of the regulations on hand does not extend to that one, so we'll double check that for tomorrow. But Martin's making up a nice bit of ground there, up 4 places from where he qualified. So that's the gap that Iquinta has pulled since passing Borja Garcia a few laps ago. It's 9 minutes until the driver change window opens. And so Garcia and Weiss just forming their own little battle for 4th position at the moment. And then Barros, Zanin and Stifter holding on to it for now, with Cassio De Mello in 9th position and Giacomo Pedrini, the second of the Fimes cars, completing the top 10 for now. I'm just thinking, because Hans Weiss has got 10 seconds of handicap, so does the 44 from GDL. So Hans Weiss in a very good position at the moment to hang on to the net lead when the driver change window closes. But of course, LMR will then be handing over to Dieter Sveps, and he is a very rapid bronze driver, so we'll see how that affects things in the second part of the race, as Paul Meyer continues to stretch his legs out to the front of the field. The gap now 4.9 seconds, as he very nearly did the fastest lap of the race last time around, but does still have that 2:21.769 as pace has been setting, and pushing all the way through the Fania chicane as he was getting the back end out a little bit. Seems to be happiest when the back end is sliding, as the car looks so alive when he's at the wheel of it, and handing over to his young Dutch teammate Juriaan de Back, the 18-year-old. Already race winners in this championship overall. Now 5.3 seconds. Remember, Meyer's trying to extend that to 10 seconds to negate his handicap as a result of their victory last time out in Portimao.
I mean, if he can continue at this vein, I mean, 5/10 a lap almost would be a sensational way. I mean, I think he'll run out of laps before he can, because obviously we've got 6 minutes and 56 until the driver change window opens. Of course, he'll probably do the higher amount of that stint anyway before Juriaan de Back steps into the car. But regardless, I don't think it's going to quite stretch to 10 seconds before he has to come in and box. But you never know. I mean, obviously drivers can make mistakes, and we'll actually take a look at the lap times last time. I can actually tell you that Paul Meyer was a whole second plus faster than Pietro Deliguanti, so it's not just 5/10s, he's actually expanded on it. So you never know. If he can keep up this rich vein of form, then Paul Meyer could quintessentially do anything. And it was a stunning qualifying session from him earlier on today to grab that pole position.
It was a rough lap for Deliguanti. He lost a second to the race leader, and 7/10 of a second to Iquinta, the chasing ZRS car that we can see in the background, the red and white machine that is chasing second place. So the pace very much in favour of ZRS in terms of the battle for second place. It is very much not with Deliguanti at the moment, who losing time to the race leader and to the chasing third place car. So he's going to have to keep it on his toes before handing over the car to Matteo Lovisi.
Yeah, of course, Lars Zanen making progress and managed to obviously keep himself ahead of Barros for that P6. So now he's only got Hans Weiss in between him and the Pro-Am lead, which is Borja Garcia. So we'll see where or how that will transpire as we make our way deeper into the race. We've got approximately 5 minutes and 20 as we see the two cars that have been contesting over P4. So again, come toe-to-toe on the run down through Pouhon. We'll take a look at this. This is, incidentally, Lars Zanen's move, I believe, on Jose Barros. Of course, didn't seem to pull it off in that exchange, so by the looks of it, he's actually forfeited the place back.
Oh, interesting. Okay, but it's still, Barros ahead there of Zanen and Hans Weiss, which is not the information we got on our timing screen, so I don't know if there was a change there at some point.
I think there's a delay, perhaps on the timing screen at the moment. I have noticed that some of the times have been fielded rather late onto the screen, so whether there's a delay in the transponder delivering the information or something, I'm not quite sure. But regardless, the way we're looking at it, it looks like Jose Barros is ahead of Lars Zanen for now. It has updated on our screens now, incidentally, but that hasn't stopped Zanen for continuing to pepper the back of the Porsche in front of him, and not forgetting Diego Stifter, who's been watching all of this unfold over the last how many laps they've been going at it. Of course, 33 minutes or so to go. Still Paul Meyer with the fastest lap of the race. Who else would it be, quite honestly? 6.3 seconds now. He is ahead of Pietro Deli Guanti, and again, it was approximately a 7/10 of a second gain by Paul Meyer on Pietro Deli Guanti. So anywhere between 5/10 to a second, that is what Paul Meyer is currently gaining each and every single lap. So I'll tell you what, Chris, he could actually break 10 seconds come the end of his stint.
Yeah, it's very possible. So it was 7/10 of a second in favour of Meyer last time around. 6.3 now the gap, as we're right on board with Lars Zanen in the slipstream of Barros, and we've seen this a couple of times so far this race. The HWM car has got really good speed down the straight, looks one way, looks the other. Barros covers it off, and not late enough on the brakes to be able to throw one up the inside of Lecom, which would probably end in a clang and a squeal and two very upset drivers.
Yeah, well, fortuitously enough, that has not occurred. And therefore, they can continue. Diego Stifter smelt a little brief moment, maybe a potential chance. The battle for sixth position still alive and kicking. You can see the protect. Oh my goodness me! Jose Barros sideways, making his way out of Rivage, and then through Jackie X. Now that might be the invitation that Lars Zanen is looking for. Whether he tries something at Pouon, I'm not quite sure. Of course, the door slams shut straight away by Barros. He's not having any of it. Still holds on to that P6 for now, but there's a few errors starting to peek through now. The pressure massing on Barros at this stage. They come down now in towards the Lefanier chicane. Stifter's got the best view in the house of this little battle that he's got in front. Let's take a look at this again. Sideways at Rivage. Look at that rear end. It's like something straight out of the Fast and Furious.
Oh, he's got a difficult run out of Fania and into Stavilo. There was half a chance there for Lars Zanen. That would have been very difficult to pull off, and that's actually compromised his run here a little bit onto the back stretch towards Blanchimont.
Very wide there again, has to be said, from Barros. Did not take necessarily the, I'm going to call it the optimal line. Certainly not the same line that Lars Zanen was taking, but they're going to rush down through, just skipping over the curbs there on the run down through towards the bus stop chicane. But Barros somehow, some way, still keeping hold of this P6 position. Has been, he's been a thorn in the side of Barros so far as Lars Zanen. Last lap for Paul Meyer, delivered a 2:22.4. And yet again, that's 8/10 quicker plus than Pietro Deli Guanti, nearly 9/10 in fact between those two. So again, the deficit increases, 7.2. The rear left just getting stuck slightly there for Barros, and now Zanen hovering all over that rear spoiler on the Porsche, almost giving him a little nudge on the run-up through towards Eau Rouge.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, it looked like it from my angle as well, Chris, as we now watch them peel over the crest, and this could be the run that the Hans Weiss Motorsport team have been waiting for. He's had a few attempts at this. Has Lars Zanen, a flash of the lights, a twinkle as they now move their way up through towards the Lecom section. He's going to commit to the outside. Is it no late divergence to the inside at all? That would have been far too late anyway, regardless, but you never know. Malmedy might deliver here for Zanen. He's probably getting pretty sick and tired of seeing the view from this Porsche in front.
Oh, absolutely. But there's a chance he'll not have to see it soon, because the driver change window will be opening at the end of this lap as Diego Stifter has a look around the outside. He got the run out of Malmedy and into Rivage, but Zanen was wise to that one, and that's given Stifter a bit of a reprieve. And here we're going to see the off-board angle, and I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. There was like
a little shake,
a Rizzler's width at the maximum between the front of the number 6 from HWN, the rear of the 77 from AF.
The gap thinner than a fly's eyelash, everybody. Incredible. As they come through the Lefanier chicane, there's now Barros, Zanen, Stifter remain manacled together at the moment. Coming down now through the sequence of rights, through Campus and Stavilo, and Corbeil-Pourfrère set to be alight with these three Porsches. We're now inside of 29 minutes. Change now on. So there we have it. It'll end in the next 7 minutes and 40 or so. Paul Meyer, of course, will do the plethora of this stint. His last lap at 2:22.303. Again, another 9/10 taken away from Pietro Deli Guanti, very nearly a whole second, in fact. as now he looks to try and build the gap, and he is going to surpass nearly 8 seconds against Deli Guanti right now. So a huge chance here for them to bury the handicap that they'll have to serve soon enough, putting more pressure on Fime's team. But all eyes on the battle here once again.
A warning flag going out to Lars Zanen for driving standards. Wow, not sure what that's about. I know they don't like drivers getting on the flasher button and using that in wheel-to-wheel combat. As Diego Stifter is the first car to come into pit lane. So the bi-race crew will be ready, handing over to Ludovico Larini.
That was a very reactive run into the pit lane for just 2 seconds.
Oh, that's it. You've only got so much space to actually swing the car right through there. So it is very much a dart over to the other side of the track. If you've got someone alongside you, then you definitely won't be doing that. So we can see the LMR crew and Tsunami RT also ready to receive their cars, as Leandro Martins and Fernando Pedrera have also come into the pit lane. So Martins will be handing over to Dieter Schweppes, and Pedrera will be handing over to Fernando Navarrete.
Yeah, should be 2 more laps, I believe, on hand here for Paul Meyer if he's looking to commit. We've got about 6 minutes to go. A lap around here, and according to what we're seeing from Paul Meyer's lap times are 2:20. In fact, that might be rather tight, actually. It might be that he just does 1 more. We'll see. But Deli Guanti, nonetheless, 8.3 the differential now. And we'll see where they stack come the end of this particular lap. There we are. The change has been made. And indeed, we see Flavio Sampaio step in at LMR. Well, should I say Pinheiro stepping in for Sampaio here for the latter stint as well. So now we watch as Paul Meyer darts through the Blanchimont section. Again, looking to trigger the additional delta in order to potentially swamp that 10-second handicap. Makes his way through the bus stop chicane. We'll see where this lap now takes him. Of course, I'd definitely contemplate another 2:22 here at this rate, as he now crosses the line to bring an end to yet another lap. The Dutchman, who has been so fierce, and it is another 2:22, a 2:22.5 from Paul Meyer, as he now hurtles through towards Eau Rouge and Radion. He will indeed undertake yet another lap. Of course, plenty of time for that, 5 minutes. Of course, left until the driver change window comes to an end. And the gap now nearly at 9 seconds here between himself and Pietro Deli Guanti. He could do it as soon as this lap, but it'll need to be a 1.2-second gulf between the two of them.
Look at that, having to get on the flasher because he knows that he's got traffic in front of him. So that's Bernardo Pinheiro, who is on his out lap. So Meyer continuing on. Pinheiro should be up to relative speed. He is the pro in that Pro-Am car. Young Portuguese driver, the 22-year-old, came up through Ligier competition, ELMS race winner, as Jose Barros now into the pits. No driver change for him to do, so he's just going to run down the mandatory 65-second time in the pit lane. Let's look at that. Meyer through Pouon, putting the lap on Pinheiro, who'll get that back when Meyer does eventually come into pit lane. As we see another of the GDL cars in. So Nelson Marcondes getting aboard the 87, taking over from Nelson Monteiro Jr. And we saw Gianluca Di Lorenzi, the owner of the GDL squad, racing the Monaco Historic in a 1980 Shadow DN12 that the GDL crew had been restoring.
He's been an active competitor in the GT Cup Europe now for quite a few years. So we watch as the 27 makes his way out onto the track. This is Matteo Martinelli, who now takes over Giacomo Pedrini. And also for Fime's team by Ebi Motors, as now we see Paul Meyer skip down through towards the bus stop again this time. In fact, he could potentially go around again, I think. 3 minutes to go. I mean, he'd be cutting it rather fine, but I'd imagine he'll be able to pull this off, judging from the lap times he's been setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely on offer to potentially breach 10 seconds in this next lap. It's 9.1. It was a 2:22.782. Certainly not the fastest 2:22, but it's faster than Pietro Deli Guanti's 2:23s nonetheless.
Yeah, he's so close. 9.6 seconds the gap, and this one extra lap is what he needs to make the difference to. It would have to be a perfect stop otherwise as well, but yeah, that could be enough to keep Jurien de Back in the lead when he takes over the car. And Deligranti and Simone Iquenta are in. So Fimes team and the ZRS crew going to work. So Matteo Levisi, multiple race winner in GT Cup Europe, 20-year-old Italian, will climb aboard the #1 car that they won with in Portimao. And Ludovico Longoni will take over the 22 as well. We've also got GT Corsa in as well. So Alejandro Barambio, they've got 10 seconds to take in that pit stop as well. Yeah, Garcia vacating the car. We have also got the #6 HWN car in. So Fugani Salub taking over from Lars Zanen. Giacomo Gibergia taking over from Cassio De Mello in the 44 car that is second in the AM Championship going into this weekend. And Evgeny Leonov also serving his pit stop as well. I've noticed that Dieter Schweppes has not come back out onto the racetrack and has been in pit lane now for 5 minutes. Yeah, so another drama befalling the championship-winning LMR crew.
Yeah, having problems. 2 laps down against Paul Meyer at the moment. There is the Dutchman making his way through the final sector in what will be the last visit in this stint. Also be bringing it in, and Jurien de Back will take over, who definitely looks like he's a driver making a lot of progress. It has to be said, a very furious combination, Paul Meyer and Jurien de Back. It's now the Hans Weiss Motorsport team released what was the Lars Zanen car, and instead it's Saluba behind the wheel. Fagani Saluba, rejoins the action as he makes his way out of the pit lane. It's now storming back out onto the racetrack now and charging up the Kemmel Straight as now Paul Meyer, without any doubt, surely coming into the box. And there he is, your race leader, Paul Meyer. His stint is done. Next up, Jurien de Back.
A little concern for Hans Weiss, though, George, because the driver change window ends now, and he was 23 seconds behind the race leader. So I think the boss is going to end up taking a penalty here, because the window's closed. He's not in pit lane. He will be in this lap, but he was too far back. He should have come in on the previous lap. He's now into pit lane now, but they will take a penalty for not doing their driver change window in the window. As we see Jurien de Back in the car. They've got enough time to even have a little chit-chat down there and exchange notes. All very calm down there at HWM as they run down the clock.
Paul Meyer issuing best of luck to Jurien de Back with a tap on the hood as well. A very, very strong start to the race for them. A very, very strong stint indeed. And there's Matteo Levisi. There is the race-leading Porsche from Hans Weiss Motorsport. Is Levisi going to be able to do anything to catch Jurien de Back? This is going to be quite a fascinating twist-off here now, to see whether Jurien de Back can maintain this gap. He's now making his way out of the pits. No sign of Levisi just yet. Of course, he was making his way down the straight last time we checked, and here he is now making his way up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Work to do for Matteo Levisi, but it's now on him in the next 20 minutes to see whether he can put a single dent into the delta that is shared between them. And there he is now.
I mean, I know that Levisi's been getting the car up to speed, but I'm surprised how big the gap is, George. It's still 4 seconds.
Yeah, fairly
between de Back and Levisi there. Makes me hope that all handicaps and everything was served correctly during that pit stop sequence. So we will get confirmation at some point from race control if all handicaps were served correctly. We're anticipating 1 penalty to come in for 5, which is Rick van Zweden in 5th position after Hans Weiss was late into pit lane. But this is the state of play. 4 seconds between de Back and Levisi. 2.5 seconds further back to Ludovico Longoni for ZRS Motorsport, who are finally on course to score some points.
Yeah, which is huge for them in terms of getting their championship off and running. Barambio, of course, down in 4th at the moment, leading the Pro-Am class at the moment, ahead of Rick van Zweden, who currently sits in 5th spot ahead of Jose Barros. The gaps in totality, the closest one we do have is incidentally between Evgeny Leonov and Fagani Saluba at this stage, and that is over P9. Well, I'll wait and see whether he can bring it to within a second. Of course, Levisi just keeping an eye on the deltas at this stage, and he was faster inside the middle sector against De Back here, and the actual gap was over 0.5 of a second, Chris.
I don't want to spell doom, but I think I just saw a spot of rain.
Yeah.
On one of those shots there towards the back end of the circuit. Oh, and that was Jurian De Back getting very deep on the brakes. Maybe there is some rain out there. Grip may well be at a premium.
Keep an eye on the wipers.
Yeah, Longoni makes it into the corner, so maybe just an old school mistake there from Jurian De Back. He got very deep into the bus stop chicane. First time he's reached it in this race. There's the gap come down a little bit since De Back got up to speed. 3.2 seconds now to Matteo Levisi. It's game on between Hans Weiss Motorsport and Fimes team once again. The closing stages of this race. 17 minutes still to go.
Vote of confidence for Levisi with that half a second in the middle sector over that last lap. So you never know. With certainly plenty of time left in this race, standing at 17 minutes. Levisi's got to put his best foot forward here if he wants to try and land a challenge against the Hans Weiss Motorsport pairing of De Back and Paul Meyer. Despite the efforts of Paul Meyer, they could be underwritten now in this second half of the race. Giacomo Gierbergia moving into P10 ahead of Saluba now as well, so that's a gain for him. Moving inside the top 10, Evgeny Leonov has also managed to move up into 9th place as well, so some gains there for the AM class. And currently AM P2 as it stands with Gierbergia, who will feature on the AM podium if it stays like this. Pro-Am, of course, with the 3 cars, Barambio convincingly ahead of Fagani Saluba, who only seems to be going backwards, so that will give Barambio a lot of confidence in D2. So we watch the car of Ludovico Longoni flying down through the Pouhon section. Levisi definitely trying to pull everything out in this instance. Obviously, Jurian De Back in the first sector was a little bit quicker than Levisi, approximately 2 to 3 tenths. We'll take a look at this moment as well. Now, this is Saluba. Oh, and this is why he lost. Well, it was 2 places that incidentally he lost. It's because of the spin coming in to, well, through the final sector at the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, did manage to go on his way, and the 911 of Dieter Schweppes has actually been able to rejoin the race as well. It's 2 laps down, but that car is running. And the spell of doom here is that the team manager for car 5, the Hans Weiss Motorsport car, has been asked to report to race control. So that will be about arriving into pit lane too late.
Yeah, to explain themselves, obviously.
Not sure why the 911 is being called up as well, though.
Well, they were in there for quite some time, weren't they?
Yeah, it was at least 5 minutes. You could argue that they came out of the pit lane after the pit lane window had closed, but I don't think you can really cop them for that. If there was clearly some sort of problem there that kept them in pit lane for far longer than they would have wanted it to be. The lead gap coming down once again, half a second Matteo Levisi took out of Jurian De Back last time around.
And it's always the middle sector, Chris, as well. In fact, in the first and third sector, De Back actually had Levisi's number. He's losing all the time in sector 2. So we're talking probably arguably the most technical part of the racetrack, you know, where you come out of you know, the Malmedy section down through towards Rivage, but obviously Pouhon is one of the main instances, and then you've got the La Fagnier chicane as well. So that is where the time is being gained by Matteo Levisi, but is it enough? That's the question. We got wheel to wheel further back though. Barambio now being roomed up upon by Rick van Zwerden, who's going to try and take the long way around here. This is Am against Pro-Am, the 2 leaders of their respective classes, as they now come through out of the next section of Les Combes through Malmedy. Nose to tail, no changes here. Still Barambio holding on for now, but a flash of the lights again this time from Rick van Zwerden. Still pushes and prods and tries to open up a channel for a potential overtake, but can't quite do it. And again, just a little bit of a swapper coming through out of Rivage there from the Hans Weiss Motorsport car.
It's the sim racing convert, Rick van Zwerden, putting some of that knowledge to the test here as he goes wheel to wheel with Alejandro Barambio. And yet 4th and 5th position being disputed, and Rick's got a great run out of Pouhon, and he's got the inside line into the Fagnier chicane, and yes, it does put that number 5 car into 4th position for now.
Textbook move from Van Zwerden. See that sim racing expertise paying off. And we do have a warning going out to 77 of Jose Barros for track limits as well at the moment. So that's the latest news that has come up on our timing screen. Updates on our classification as well, with Rick Van Zwerden getting confirmed P4 ahead of Barambio. In terms of Lavisi in the back, again, more time found in the middle sector here for Lavisi. 2.3 seconds now between the pair of them, despite again being slower than De Back inside the first sector. The middle sector is where it's paying dividends, so whether that's down to the setup, I'm not quite sure. Whether they've managed to truncate something for the cornering aspect of the middle sector, where it gets rather complicated. Obviously, generally inside that first sector, you've got the long Kemmel straight where straight line speed is apparent. But for the first time, Matteo Lavisi quicker than De Back inside sector 3, so that's another tenth or so gained, and that brings the margin down to approximately 2.1, Chris. And dare I say, I think we could get to within 2 come the end of this lap.
No, he's 6 tenths quicker last time around, so it is very much game on. Lavisi is hunting down De Back for the lead of this race. He's got 12 minutes to try and close down the rest of that gap. Let's take stock as well, because Barambio, I'm sure, will be losing places to the silver class cars behind him, as you'd expect. Barambio is the bronze driver in that car, so Barros, Larini, Martinelli, you'd expect them to come through. Evgeny Leonov running second in the AM Championship on his return to the series, and Giacomo Gibergia in the 44 car, running very nicely there at the moment, and on course to take the championship lead there, in fact. And it would be a change for lead in Pro-Am as well, with GT Corsa taking over if it were to stay as it is. Poor Dieter Svepsic, no one to race. I'm sure he would have been carving his way up the AM order had he been, well, not been held up in pit lane and lost 2 laps. And that car is at least able to continue on. So hopefully they'll get a trouble-free run tomorrow, because that's the second time this season that they've had some sort of problem in one of these races.
Yeah, oh, bit of a wide moment there for De Back.
And that's going to be a track limits.
Yeah, exploring the many areas of Spa-Francorchamps. So not just content with what's going on what's within the curbs. Instead, extending just a little bit, and that's music to the eyes, or music to the ears of Matteo Lavisi. Of course, now flashing his lights, just letting De Back know that he is closing up. Of course, both of these cars sharing race wins apiece at Portimao. It was a unfortunate spin on the opening lap for Paul Meyer in the first race of the campaign that, of course, contributed to Lavisi as well as Deli Guanti obtaining their first win of the season. But by equal measure, though, the following day, it was a retirement for Lavisi and Deli Guanti in race 2 that also, you could argue, contributed to De Back and Paul Meyer, even though they had the gap home and hosed regardless through the course of that race anyway. But it's now on De Back to try and hold back the tirade that Lavisi is laying down. It's now 1.8 between them. We are within 2 seconds, and that'll only feed the encouragement here for the young Italian, who's going to look to try and put his foot down. Has had some great races here in the past at Spa, and is looking to ascend further here for Fime's team.
That gap continuing to come down then. Lavisi, a 3-time winner. Oh no, sorry, 4-time winner now after Portimao, isn't he? With all overall victories in his previous team, GDL, back in the day. Runner-up in the championship a couple of years ago. They're now back for another shot at the title. And I have a feeling we're going to be seeing this kind of thing throughout the whole year. George, 9 minutes left on the clock. The gap closing between these 2 cars that have been the class of the field all day long. Paul Meyer put it on pole position and kept his 100% championship lead. Pulled the gap that he needed to pull in order to keep that car in the lead of the race when Jurien De Back took over. But Matteo Lavisi has been chipping away at that gap ever since. We still haven't had confirmation if all the handicaps are okay either, so it may well be some post-race news we need to keep an eye out for. But it could be fireworks between Fimes and Hans Weiss Motorsport in the remaining 8 minutes of this race. The gap now less than 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, he's really starting to take chunks out of the back now, is the VC. And very soon, I can imagine, it won't be long before he's within a second as they now cross the stripe and bid an end to yet another lap and look to begin another. It's 1.2 seconds now as they cross the line. And again, Levisi finding time in that middle sector and also in the final sector now. That's starting to become an established fact. It was 3/10 approximately at the end of the third sector, and now he'll look to fly up through a Rouge and Radion, though De Back has been quicker than Levisi at this part of the racetrack. As they now look to climb the hill, a little bit of a shaky run here from Levisi as he now peels over the crest. And now charging up through the long Kemmel straight. Can he find anything additional now? And look to bring it to within a second on this very lap in order to potentially lay down the hammer to Jurien De Back. 7 minutes and 20 or so to go here in this race. And we're talking potentially 3 to 4 laps of racing action. So if Levisi's going to do it, he's going to have to do it pretty soon.
Yeah, opportunities are going to start wearing thin, aren't they? We'll see if he can pull this one off. Of course, he's catching, but passing is another thing entirely. And Jurien De Back does know this car very well. He's been racing in various sprint challenges and Carrera Cup in the Benelux region with the HWM crew. But Levisi in his third year with this car. If I remember rightly, into the Fagnes chicane. Gap continuing to close down. It's the 20-year-old Italian. Chases down the 18-year-old Dutchman. And through the curve, Paul Frere. Let's see what the gap is when they go over the second timing split with 6 minutes left on the clock. Very even in the middle sector that time around, so the gap's still 1.4 seconds, but last time around, De Back actually lost most of his time in the final sector of the loves. He struggled to get around the bus stop chicane. So we'll see what it is when they go across the timing line on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, rare moment for De Back to actually be quicker than Levisi in that middle sector. That hasn't often happened. Usually, Levisi is taking 2 to 4, maybe 6/10 chunks out of De Back. We run on board here with Jose Barros, who has got ambitions of P5 on his mind, with Alejandro Barambio currently sat in between him and that position. So we'll see if the AF Motorsport car can get the run out of Blanchimont in order for a potential charge. Incidentally, just making his way over the curbs. Oh, maximising every aspect of the track. That might be a little bit too far, but he's going to go up the inside anyway. And Jose Barros now moves through, and we got a time penalty of 10 seconds applied to the Rick Van Zwerden. So that's after they missed the pits. Because of the driver change window had come to an end. They came in the pits afterwards, and they've just been handed a 10-second time penalty, hence the big red exclamation mark on the left side of your timing screen, everybody. That is confirmed from race control. Yeah,
but it's not going to cost them the class win, because they are currently, well, as near as makes no difference, 30 seconds ahead of Evgeny Leonov. So it's still been a mighty performance from the number 5 crew. And that's not going to cost them the win, though. So now it's Ludovico Larini's turn to line up Alejandro Barambio for 6th position overall now. The silver class drivers making their way through on Barambio as we anticipated. Martinelli, though, another 10 seconds back from this battle, so might get away with it if checkered flag comes out soon enough for Barambio. It's 4 minutes left on the clock. And again, flashing the lights there a little bit was Larini. Car started by Diego Stifter, and he gets the run out of Speaker's Corner and into Pouon. Yeah, Barambio making that a little bit easier for Larini. Going in there, so that's a change for 6th position. But Barambio still with the Pro-Am lead. And, well, if you thought that Van Zwerden's advantage in the AM category was impressive, wait till you hear this. 50 seconds the advantage for Barambio over Bernardo Pinheiro, the second Pro-Am car, which is in 11th position, as it looks like it's going to be an early shower for Dieter Sveps. He brings that car back into pit lane.
Yeah, of course, 2 laps down, as we saw it last time. Urenda back for the first time. The lap before last, instead was faster by 2/10 against Lavisi. Well, Lavisi has just brought it straight back in by 2/10 as of the last lap. So there we go. Although I will say this, it was actually a 10th quicker over the lap, the course of a lap from Urenda back. So there we go. So Lavisi not having it all his own way here. Just feels that De Back is starting to turn things up a notch now that he's aware that the Fimes team car is closing him down in a, well, what was a relative rate of knots. Now it's a little bit more complicated for Lavisi. And we've got approximately a lap or so ago after this one left, because 2 minutes and 40 left in the session. The timer will be ticking to 0 very, very soon. And De Back just needs to keep his composure. And if anything now, he's gaining more time. First sector, of course, his best friend and has been through the course of this race, or certainly through this stint against Lavisi. He managed to find 4/10 of a second against the young Italian, who unfortunately may have to settle for second best again, much like he did back in 2024. Of course, where he was battling for the championship. It was a tough visit for Lavisi. Knows that he's trying to aim and strive, but we got a car off, and that's the 44.
The third place car in the AM category, Giacomo Gibergia, that was on course to take the championship lead in the AM category, stopped at the side of the road. It's had a rotation potentially here at La Source. Got Evgeny Leonov right in front of him and just looping the GDL Porsche around, lighting up the rear Michelins. And that is Giacomo Gibergia facing the wrong way. And we'll see if that has cost him anything in terms of the AM category. Might have gotten away with that, actually, and not lost anything to Fernando Navarrete, which would cost him the podium.
A ballet-style pirouette to see Giacomo Gibergia the wrong way round, but he'll know himself right, I'm sure. Leonov, of course, benefiting off the back of it, means that he's relieved of any pressure over that P9 position and second in AM overall. Gibergia now falling down through the field, and Pinheiro and Salubra move up a place each. So we now take a look at our front runner, Urenda back, inside the final minute. The timer very soon will be at 0. It's all on him to try and keep Lavisi at bay, who, as I said before, a threat to the title 2 years ago, finishing runner-up in 2024. He's going to have to try and pull out something special now. We're on the final lap of the race, and he's 1.7 seconds behind. Again, Urenda back, quicker by nearly 2/10 of a second, 1.5 to 2/10 anyway. Urenda back now finding his feet at a very crucial time in this first Spa race of the weekend.
Urenda's getting very composed out there, though, isn't he? He's been under pressure his entire stint. This 18-year-old is looking very, very calm and confident and composed up at the front of the field, despite the pressure of Matteo Lavisi, the efforts he's put in to close down that gap. And De Back has responded. He has responded since that gap came down to under 2 seconds. He has not let it get much smaller than that. To be honest, it's really stabilized now at about 1.7 seconds. So this is a great performance here from Urenda back. And, well, Paul Meyer's first part of his double duty weekend is going to get off to a cracking start.
Yeah, obviously his hard work and efforts through the course of this weekend are absolutely not going to be in vain. Urenda back is going to ensure that his mission gets fulfilled, at least here in race 1 at Spa, managing to maintain a gap to Lavisi at 1.7 to 1.8 seconds. The last lap giving him 1.5 to 2/10 over Lavisi, protecting that race lead advantage in what would be a second race win of the season for this pairing. And it does mean they have one more than Lavisi and Deliguanti to see their championship through, but this is far from over between these two teams. I'm sure that Fimes team will be looking to come back tomorrow with renewed vigour, trying to chase down this double Dutch lineup, of course, with Urenda back, a young man looking to persevere, has had plenty of experience in sports cars over the last 3 years, and looking to use every ounce of it here in the GT Cup Europe, and kicking off Spa in the best way possible. He'll venture through the bus stop chicane for the final time here on Saturday and venture round that final bend, the second half of the bus stop, and with a spur of the rear tyres, flies up towards the line to take the checkered flag. Jurian de Back is your race winner here in race 1 at Spa in the GT Cup Europe. Levisi across the line in second, gets just to about within a second regardless, but it's not enough to take the victory. Ludovico Longoni will cross the stripe and take third as well. That's your podium, folks. And Van Zwierden will, of course, cross the line too, despite the penalty sideways on the escape coming out of bus stop, but that won't deter him. 10 seconds will be given. It won't matter. They are the AM winners. Barros should inherit an improved place as well off the back of all this too, and so will Larini, I think, at the same time. And then Barambio will remain in 7th ahead of Martinelli. Evgeny Leonov on his return to the championship as well in 9th place ahead of Pinheiro. So that is all she wrote, folks. That's your top 10. But Jurian de Back, in great style, your victor here at Spa-Francorchamps ahead of Matteo Levisi. These two teams that both took victories back at Portimao also had their own fair share of setbacks, but they both stand on the podium together for the first time. And Paul Meyer comes across to celebrate straight away. They did what needed to be done. The opening stint, Lars Zanen coming across to congratulate the winning driver as well. Of course, also part of the Hans Wies team. But it's victory for Jurian de Back and Paul Meyer. A brilliant way to kick off the Spa weekend. You are number 1. Of course, Paul's going to be a very busy boy throughout the course of the day. Matteo Levisi maybe feeling perhaps, you're probably wondering, what if I gain those extra tenths in those key areas? But there's more work to be done tomorrow, that's for sure. Still very much within this championship fight. There's still a long way to go. And we've got another race tomorrow. We do it all again, of course, but this is exactly how Hans Wies would have wanted this to go, Chris.
Certainly would have. A pretty perfect day for them as they take double victory in GT Cup here today, with the boss and Rick Van Zerden also taking the AM win.
Yeah, perfect day indeed. It's a perfect day for Paul Meyer and Jurian de Back. Your race winners here at Spa, ahead of Matteo Levisi and Pietro Delicoanti as well. Quinta and Longoni in 3rd, with Jose Barros in 4th. Diego Stifter and Ludovico Larini in 5th. Then we have Van Zwierden and Hans Wies in 6th place, winners of AM. Winners in Pro-Am, Barambio and Garcia in 7th. They finish ahead of Martinelli and Pedrini in 8th. AM 2nd, Evgeny Leonov on his return in 9th. Pinheiro and Sam Pau, Pro-Am 2nd place. Down in 10th, then we have H. de Mello, Giacomo Giabergia. They, of course, will line up as well, just down in 3rd in AM, so a podium for them in class. Fernando Navarrete, then Pagani Salubra, also alongside Lars Zanen. We then have Marcondes and Dieter Schweppes as well, last of the running cars, in fact DNF, after they brought the car into the pits 5 laps down off the back of our race leaders.
And so that means Giacomo Giabergia did not cost GDL a place on the AM podium.
Top 3, Ludovico Longoni managing to complete ZRS's run to achieving the top 3 place. Ludovico Longoni doing the business. Matteo Levisi, though, coming home in 2nd. It was a great effort on their part to try and catch Jurian de Back. It wasn't possible, though. The work by Paul Meyer, absolutely stellar. And they're both standing by with Alfredo.
So, what a beautiful race. Fight in the distance with some elastic gaps. Paul, first stint, how was it?
Yeah, brilliant start to the weekend, I guess. Quali went well this morning, and I took a good start and could gain a nice gap. We knew we had like 10-second penalty in the pit stop, so we needed to create a gap, and I was happy to do so. And Jurian did fantastic job to finish the car in first and yeah, extend our lead in the championship.
Yeah, the boy did well in the second stint, resisting.
Yeah.
Intense, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty intense because the tires were done, but yeah, I tried my best and my job was to bring it home. So Paul did a mega first stint, and after that was, yeah, just finishing the job.
Good, well done, guys. Paul, you're not finished for the day, so yeah, some travel. Well done. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Picture.
Well, let's take a look at the highlights and see how they did it on the run down through towards turn one. It was a great start for Paul Meyer, managing to cover off the effort of Pietro Deli Guante, who actually came under pressure from cars behind as well. It was quite the battle. Of course, Boyar Garcia right in the thick of it too. Others elsewhere, LMR getting a good start, but it would end in tears for them. A dip into the gravel, though, for Deli Guante would cost him more time against Paul Meyer. And, of course, Meyer leaping on every opportunity to try and expand that gap to negate the 10-second handicap that they would have to serve during the pit stop. We saw the Ludovico Longoni car in the thick of the action as well earlier on that first stint, of course. Just managing to hold on there in that instance, and of course wheel-to-wheel elsewhere as LMR look to protect their places. It's sad to see where they ended up towards the end of the race, having finished 5 laps down. It was a huge almighty tussle. Jose Barros right in the thick of the action as well, bidding to try and defend the place. Paul Meyer eventually saw his stint come to an end, surpassing the 10-second handicap, therefore leaving it on a plate for Jurian de Back to deliver. We did, of course, see Lars Zanen and Pagani Salubra. Unfortunately, they came into the midst of a spin at the bus stop chicane. Unfortunately, that would see them drop down a few places. And then eventually, as we restored ourselves back to racing order, we saw them at it again. The number 5, of course, of Rick van Zweerden coming in after Hans Wies, trying to move his way up the order. They, of course, were penalised with a penalty for not coming in the approved time for the driver change. But the checkered flag would be taken by a Hans Wies car anyway. It was Jurian de Back who crossed the line to give victory to himself and Paul Meyer, their second of the season. So we now move to the podium celebrations. And, of course, in terms of lights to flag for victories, of course, it's a fairly exclusive club over that. Nicholas van Dierendonk and Bas Schouten back in 2019. They went from lights to flag in race 1. And, of course, Aldo Frastante doing the same in 2020. In terms of race 1s since then, though, we've had Luca Ludwig and Velasco go from pole to victory in 2024. We now see Jurian de Back and Paul Meyer do the same in 2026. So credit to them for that. And again, they continue a strong run at the start of this championship, Chris, and 2 wins for the season.
3 races and 3 podiums as well for that number 7 crew, extending the lead in the championship. And that will be second in the championship now for Pietro Deli Guante and Matteo Levisi, I would have thought. And it's a first podium of the season for the ZRS crew as well, which is very much overdue after 2 DNFs in Portimao, which weren't necessarily their fault, I should stress. Certainly, both of them, they just kind of got caught out in someone else's incidents, really. So great to see their efforts finally being rewarded. The exchange there between Hans Wies and the ZRS crew, so Ludovico Longoni, that we can see, who's now been called to the podium. Right, put the water down and yeah, to the podium. And there we go. With Matteo Levisi and Pietro Deli Guante, the next to be caught up. Now it seems like Longoni is alone on the podium. I wonder where Simone Iquenta has gone.
He hasn't got commitments elsewhere, is he?
I haven't seen any, but it's entirely possible. Well, Paul's stuck around for the podium at least.
He's not going to miss it, surely.
No. Oh, Pietro Deli Guante's also not made it. Well, okay. Well, they're going to miss out on the Dutch national anthem.
Well, in just the nick of time, he sprinted to the podium, did Pietro Deli Guante.
He did, yeah. There was a thumbs up there from the Meyer clan as well. Partner and daughter there. Oh, there's Simone. I couldn't find his way up there. Got lost. Yeah. Went into the wrong building, obviously.
Well, we've seen a few drivers do that through the course of the year, in Euro Formula mainly. But this time it's the GT Cup Europe lot. But here, nonetheless, Michelin representative presenting the second place trophy to Matteo Levisi, Pietro Deli Guante. Second place now for the first time this season. Incidentally, of course, they did pick up a win in the opening race. They didn't classify, though, in the second race, and it's a second victory of the season for this incredible pairing. And I think this is brilliant. You've got the experience and youth factor with Paul Meyer and obviously Yuri Anderbach at the same time, which is going to be formidable, I think, for any team that they're going to be up against this season.
That's very true. It's a rapidly growing, expanding team that is finding more and more performance every single time they seem to get out on the racetrack. But don't underestimate the Ebby Motors run at Fimes Cruise. You see the Weiss family there as well, partner and son.
Champagne getting sprayed, and there we have it. Obviously, this is a joyous moment for everybody. Of course, Paul Meyer not sticking around. Well, actually, no, he's there on the bottom left, actually.
Yeah.
He just dashed off. I think he was...
But the good news is he's got another set of overalls for the other events.
I was going to say, surely he's not going to take those with him. And
no. Stick them in the washing machine. By the time he gets back, they'll be nice and dry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pro-Am Podium comes next, and we're going to be kicking things off with Alejandro Barambio, who will be on the top step. Of course, we have Giacomo Giabergia as well in AM third. He, of course, though, joined by his teammate at the same time as they look to come together. Obviously, great to have them with us. And, yeah, obviously a Pro-Am battle that obviously was largely held by Barambio. There was a gulf of drivers in between. Bernardo, Lucas Pinheiro unable to get anywhere near in a bid to close the gap. But Boyar Garcia, of course, joining Barambio on the top step. Obviously, Lars Zanen, Pagani Salubra, who finished as well in third. We take a look at the top drivers now. It's number 14, your eventual race winner in Pro-Am class.
And new championship leaders,
yes.
George. Alejandro Barambio and Borja Garcia after a second victory of the season.
Yeah, very strong. And a grand appearance for them indeed. Flavio Sampaio as well joining them on the grid. We'll have the national anthem.
Le dernier pilote est arrivé sur le podium. On va remettre le trophée. La troisième position, c'est Monsieur Frédéric Flambard, technical advisor.
Well,
Bernardo Pinheiro a little bit late to the podium as well. Where are all these drivers doing? Where have they been going?
there must be some really high stairs somewhere.
Really? Yeah.
Well, there we have it, folks. The trophies getting presented to the Pro-Am drivers, but we've got it all again tomorrow, have we not? We've got qualifying coming up in the morning. The GT Corsa team receiving their winning trophies in Pro-Am class, but do not go away. Of course, tomorrow we will be back for qualifying in the morning and then race in the afternoon. But from all of us here in GT Cup Europe, we'll see you then. Goodbye.